So it's Saturday night and you're watching Clash of the Titans, of course. You're with me, Jeremy Kyle, and I'm joined by Julia Hartley-Brewer alongside the legend that is Mike Graham and the afterthought that is Kevin O'Sullivan. I'm only
Why do
joking.
I get this every week?
Because you do. First question tonight for you. Are there no depths to which Sir Dreary Starmer and his mob won't sink? The murders of those sweet three little girls in Southport rightly shocked the nation. After that horrific day in July with rising tensions and bad actors exploiting the tragedy, we needed honest leadership. We needed and wanted answers. Who did it? Why did they do it? Instead, this week we found out that what got announced was nothing short of a cover-up. The truth was withheld and a tidal wave of misinformation flooded social media. Two-tier Keir, who's been very quick to jump on other terrorist incidents, was silent on this one. Now, this week, the Prime Minister has tried to make this barbaric terrorist act all about a 17-year-old killer being able to buy a knife on Amazon. Is that really the point? This man suddenly promises to change the law on terrorism and protect our kids, whoever it upsets, despite the fact that he won't announce, of course, an inquiry into the rape gangs, because he's probably frightened he'll lose Labour seats. Is he the man to do it? The human rights lawyer who fought deportations of foreign criminals and hired his best mate as Attorney General. Don't hold your breath, folks. For plain speaking and action, just look across the pond. In one day, President Donald Trump swept away a decade of wokery, ended America's weakness on immigration, and took an axe to net zero. Isn't it a bleeding pity we don't have that here? Just roll the titles, please. Let's get going with the First Lady of Talk, Julia Hartley-Brewer.
Well, we've got to talk Southport, haven't we? I mean, the surprise guilty plea from Axel Rudakubana, and of course the point when we had the guilty plea to murder, to the three murders, to 8 attempted murders, and of course possession of ricin, a knife, and an Al-Qaeda terror manual, suddenly we were allowed to speak freely. We couldn't prejudice a trial. But what really emerged was that actually a lot of the information wouldn't have prejudiced the trial anyway. And what is so extraordinary is we had this press conference from the Prime Minister on Tuesday where he was trying to do his address to the nation and where he spoke as slowly as possible, talking down to us all about how he couldn't have told us more about this man sooner. Why? Because it would have prejudiced the trial. We would not have got a fair trial. And this is all absolute, total and utter bunker.
Tosh.
Look, you know, we've worked as news reporters. I've sat in enough court cases. I did my training. I know what the deal is. And what's extraordinary, so does Keir Starmer. I believe he used to have a job basically as Director of Public Prosecution.
He doesn't mention it much.
But what is extraordinary is how much information we've had previously about previous cases. I mean, you think Joe Cox, her killer, Thomas Mayer, 2 days after that horrific slaying of the Labour MP, all across the front pages was this man had neo-Nazi memorabilia, all these books he'd bought, he'd been looked at, had mental health problems all over, but we weren't allowed to know any of that. We just had a choir boy born in Cardiff.
Yes.
And they wondered why people didn't trust them. So when information from the far right and from bad players from abroad swamped the internet, no wonder people believed them because there was a vacuum left. I never ever will defend people who rioted, who threatened asylum seekers, who threw bricks at police. Absolutely, banged your rights in court, in prison, no problem with that. But they nevertheless, they kind of tarred a whole nation as far right for being angry about this. When they left a vacuum, and it was for no good reason other than that, let's face it, they were concerned because they think that we're all horrible, racist bigots who can't control our emotions and we couldn't deal with the truth. And that is, when we talk about contempt of court, forget contempt of court, contempt of voters.
Is it not fair to say, and I threw this out on the show, and you guys might or might not agree with me, but he kept quiet, okay? He was very quick to label, and like you, the far right have no place, and I have no acceptance of the riots. But there were many people who took to the streets who are naturally frustrated by this government, who were tarred as far right by Keir Starmer, who politicised it. I've got one question for everybody. If you're prejudicing the case against that piece of crap who murdered 3 little girls by saying he's a terrorist, are you not assuming by saying they're all far right that they're all going to be nicked and put in prison irrespective? Was that not double standards again?
Can I just say, why are we even dignifying Keir Starmer's stance with this discussion?
Because we have half an hour to fill.
I'll tell you what, you know, we went to college to learn this stuff, the journalistic law.
Did you?
Yeah, before, you know, we had to take exams and all that kind of thing before we got a job.
You've got to know how...
we did.
Pen and paper.
Now, listen,
scroll.
You've got to learn how to do it properly before you disregard it completely.
You have to know the law in order to know
that.
how to get round it.
Yeah.
But seriously, it is absolute gobbledygook to say that a trial can be prejudiced by charges.
Yeah.
There's two things he could have done. He could have organised it because he knew on day one that Rudakubana had in his house ricin poison and an Al-Qaeda manual, written, by the way, by an Islamic terrorist, by an extremist.
That you could get in Waterstones.
So that he knew that. So he could have been charged with 3 murders, 10 attempted murders, possession of ricin and possession of Al-Qaeda.
Which is a terror offence.
That would have handled it all. Instead, I'll tell you why he didn't charge, why he wasn't charged with ricin and Al-Qaeda. It was because Keir Starmer was busy calling all the rioters far-right people operating on misinformation. It ruined his entire stance. You cannot prejudice a trial by someone's charges. What he's essentially saying, Keir Starmer, is this, that if the public know a defendant's charges, the charges against the defendant, that prejudices a trial.
Okay.
That is absurd.
The charges weren't brought until late October last year. Yeah. Why so late when they'd found the stuff?
Well,
we know they'd found the ricin immediately.
I think the original charges came earlier, but then the terrorist charges came in October. You're right.
But why?
Well, I think this is what's happened, right? Because this guy is so absolutely and utterly ruled by the law as he sees it.
Yep.
He thinks he can get in and out of the law when he wants to. So he's obviously said, look, if we do it this way, then nobody can call him a terrorist. I've never heard of anyone saying you can't call someone a terrorist because they don't fit the definition. It's ridiculous. He's clearly a terrorist.
In many previous cases, not just in the case of Jo Cox and her killer Thomas Mayer, in many of the Putney Tube bombing attack, in numerous other attacks.
Victoria MP in Southend.
We've actually been given lots of information, and the likes of Sadiq Khan, the London mayor, and Keir Starmer, when he was in the shadow cabinet, used the term terrorist about those people, instantly called terrorists.
Of course.
Now, I really don't think it really matters whether we put a label terrorist on someone. Those girls were terrorised. Those girls died. And whether he's got a particular ideology or not, the main issue we've got here is that whether you label that and whether Prevent take any action or not shouldn't be down to whether someone fits a particular bill.
Exactly.
This man was dangerous.
Exactly.
He was expelled from his school for violence. Social workers would not enter his home without police presence.
Wow.
But it's absolutely fine for him to walk the streets.
Yeah.
I mean, his parents, everyone knew they'd gone in. When he was referred to Prevent, they saw what was on the internet. They knew he was obsessed with violence, with genocide, beheadings, and everything.
Right.
But we just leave these people on the streets. So actually, this isn't about labels. This is about funding. We've got 30,000 potential terrorists on the streets already. We've got a load of lone wolves like this guy. We are at risk from these people every single day, and we don't have the resources to follow them, to deal with them, to keep a check on them, and to protect ourselves. That is where the focus needs to be, not, as we did here this week, Yvette Cooper, the Home Secretary, saying, why don't we make it a bit harder for an under 18 to buy a knife online? By the way, he was 9 days off his 18th
She also said that
he'll just waited 2 weeks.
She also said it in the comments during the week that he will be known as a terrorist. Just very quickly, what I said in the intro, just going around the table quickly. So an inquiry, quite rightly, straight away about Southport.
But it doesn't
absolutely
need to be
fantastic.
2 years.
Right.
But none for the rape gangs. When he stands up and says, as my Prime Minister, I'm going to protect kids, I laugh in his stupid face.
Right. The only person that needs to be asked questions and have an inquiry about them is Keir Starmer.
Yeah.
He knew exactly what he was doing. I spoke to Michael Mansfield, very eminent lawyer, barrister, has had lots and lots of different cases over the years, very famous, some of them as well. And he said, he agreed with me and us, that Keir Starmer could have said a lot more without in any way putting the trial in any sort of danger
I guess
whatsoever.
the question will be why, and it'll come back and bite him. Let's move on. I don't know too much about this. It doesn't really interest me. Davos.
Well, I'm calling it...
Invited?
I'm calling it...
No, have you? You have, haven't you? You have. You lot that went to college to be journalists. Okay, have you been to Davos, been invited? Brilliant.
Sorry.
This is a home for
Sorry, Jeremy, I just
resting.
zoned out there.
He's resting.
While you were on.
He's resting now. He's resting now. He made quite a strong speech earlier. So
is he having some...
Oh my God!
downtime.
The level of this humour, it's just going so high.
Listen, we started having a laugh the minute you walked in that shirt.
Oh my God! Rapier wit zipping around
Let's
the
talk
studio.
about Davos.
For God's sake!
Yeah,
let's do better than this.
He's a bit sensitive, isn't he, today?
He is.
You have any period or something? Anyway, here we go.
Another winner.
Here we go.
Another winner.
Yeah, it's a quote from The Departed, actually.
Oh, it's hilarious.
Yeah. Anyway,
Like that shirt.
Used to be
Crack
from
on.
Chris, you know know that. Anyway, yeah, Davos.
Yes.
What an absolute and utter waste of time. However, this year we're supposed to believe, and this is where it starts to become literally bending incredulity, we're supposed to believe that Rachel Reeves and Jonathan Reynolds, who's the business secretary, are part of the global financial elite. Now, I'm sorry to say, whatever you might want to call Rachel Reeves, she's not part of the global financial elite.
Richard III.
Just as she's about to speak in Davos, we hear the news this week that basically the government last month borrowed nearly £18 billion. No more debt has ever been held by this country since COVID, and since before that, 2009, when there was another financial crash. We are in so much debt, we literally can't afford to send her to Davos. Right? But I've decided that Davos...
economy.
Yeah, she'd be coming back on a train if it was to me.
On Wizz Air.
But, you know, you can't get a private jet anywhere in the world at the moment.
Richard III's thumbing a lift at Stansted Airport.
Go to London, anyone?
Get her in one of those litters like they had in his time. But, you know, more private jets than ever have appeared. But the thing that really got me this year was that they've gone sort of Poundland Davos because they had David Beckham there. And suddenly you think, what on earth is going on? If you've got to the stage where David Beckham is the best you can do, Donald Trump isn't going. He's going to sort of mail it in. He's going to have a Zoom call. Even our Prime Minister hasn't bothered going.
Well, he didn't get invited anywhere,
There's
does
none
he?
of the tech entrepreneurs like Elon Musk and Zuckerberg, Bezos, all of those guys. They're all in America.
So the real money.
Where the real money is all now going straight to Donald Trump. You know, Donald Trump and Washington, D.C. is the centre of the financial planet right now. And nobody's in Davos and nobody cares. And I think they should just do away with it. So the great news is that all those people who think that the World Economic Forum is taking over and we're all being given our instructions.
It's fading away.
Oh, Klaus Schwab, I think, might as well pack it
It's
all
called
up.
Klaus Schwab.
It's Klaus Schwab.
Over to let's
might as well just pack up his bag and go home.
right. Kevin O'Sullivan, let's treat you as the journalist you are. Over to you, my
Well, I'll
friend.
just endorse everything Mike said, but you've got to remember that this time last year, when Rachel went, her dance card was absolutely packed. Everybody couldn't wait to talk to her. She had a main speaking position on the main stage. This year, no one wants to talk to her. They haven't even given her a main speaking
No, I was
slot.
told she was invited to give a speech, but actually, speeches isn't what it's all about.
Yeah.
It's all about getting stuff done.
In other
behind the
words,
scenes.
she wasn't invited. In other words, she wasn't invited.
Laughable.
No.
Yes, everybody at Davos, there are a lot of successful billionaire businessmen there. They see her as the woman who ruined British business with her a grotesque £40 billion pound tax grab budget.
Extraordinary how very quickly, and you just said about how she was received last year at that forum. It's amazing in 7 or 8 short months.
How the mighty have fallen.
How they are.
I mean, even Greta
unpopular.
Thunberg doesn't bother going anymore.
I mean,
Even Greta
she
Thunberg.
can
where
get
she
the
lives now.
train.
Dorset.
She lives in Dorset on the
No.
Jurassic Coast,
Yeah.
which
Does
is
she?
slightly ironic, is it not?
That's what
Because she
wants
doesn't
to
like-
turn us
I know.
back to.
She
Exactly.
doesn't like fossil fuels.
But the amazing thing is they're talking again about getting investment after getting whoopity-doo-dah 600 million
Yeah.
from China.
That was a
back
lot.
of the sofa stuff. But also, you know, this AI revolution, this tech revolution. Again, you tech revolution, but you don't invite Elon Musk.
Yeah.
But also, crucially, you know what AI needs? A hell of a lot of electricity.
Yeah.
Electricity we
really
simply
does.
do not have.
Liquid
Do you know-
gold.
Do you know how do you make electricity? Well, not from wind or solar, because most
No,
of this
not
week
this
we've had
week.
barely any sun and barely any wind. And you have to rely on fossil fuels to create your energy. And no one with half a brain involved in the tech world is going to go, oh, I think I'm going to go and set my AI company up in Britain. We are going to be at the back of the
we are.
queue for getting it. This is going to be
Completely
a
right.
huge technology. It's the future. It's the future of everything.
Yeah.
It's of manufacturing, of medicine, of defence, of space. It's the future.
Television presenters.
Let's hope so. And Max Headroom in the corner. It is going to be the future, and we are going to be at the back of the queue.
Sorry,
back of the
Max
queue.
Headroom in the corner. Oh, honest to God, Julia Roberts.
He'll punish me.
Because you've got
Punish
hairy
me for that
armpits as
later.
well. Right, coming up on Clash of the Titans, Trump takes charge gloriously. Wasn't that great? Well, Ed Miliband is keen for a showdown over net zero. Stay tuned. We'll be back in 3. I wish you'd come back to Clash the Titans a minute earlier. Kev's just said, I've only worn this shirt because there were no others clean. We don't, it's fine,
My
Kev.
iron broke at home and it fused the house, if you would like to know. There you go. It's true. It's true.
Your wife has
Unbelievable.
fused the house. Right, so let's just talk for my little bit this week. And I was lucky enough to be doing drive time when that inaugural speech happened. And I would genuinely say, and people might disagree with me, I had goosebumps. I thought that most of what came out of his mouth I found myself sitting there thinking, Jesus,
I
can
was
you
cheering
imagine?
on.
I know, somebody that actually says, right, I'm at the state of emergency on the southern border, I'm going to deal with immigrants. There's two sexes, man and woman. Under the ground, we have this oil. I don't want to nick farmers' lands, build wind farms where it doesn't blow and then charge the customer 3 times. It's liquid gold. We're going to drill, baby, drill. We're going to stop pronouns. We're just going to make this a golden age. I found it really inspiring. The response from people from our audience was like, how embarrassing.
Yeah.
And of course, for me, I watched it all unfold. I watched Biden sit there. I'm still convinced. You'll tell me I'm wrong. I think he's like, I'm so done with this. I'm going to retire. I beat him. The rest of you are a bunch of idiots. Kamala Harris looked like somebody put vinegar up her nose.
By the way, Biden definitely voted for Trump.
I am so with you on that. But it was an extraordinary, I thought, an extraordinary speech. And of course, the critics will start. We've seen the stuff with the bishop the day after. But when you stand up and you get elected on a platform, to very quickly with those executive orders, show your supporters that you're doing it that night. He was like, I think it's just, and I was doing the school run. The reason I wanted to say this, the following morning, Mike was on the radio, and I texted Mike and just went, people in this country are so embarrassed by this wet. And Donald Trump, like him or loathe him, and there's many things he said and done that I don't agree with, but my God, if you're talking about gaining the pulse of a nation, understanding the heartbeat of what is going to make America, what was it, 500 trillion on AI the next day? And you're right, the capital of the world will be, and that is simply because he's taken the American people with him. What would we give for something?
Because everybody wants to be part of it, and that's the whole point. That's called leadership. We don't have anything like that.
You just felt incredibly optimistic and hopeful. I'm like you. I would have voted for him this time around. I wouldn't the last two. I've bitted on about that before. But on so many of the things that are crucial to not just America, but to the world. We're very downstream what happens in America. He's absolutely on the money. We need the American economy to be thriving. We need American to be strong defence-wise because, sorry, they are still the world's policemen and we have faced an awful lot of threats. I just felt this well of optimism and decisiveness and this coming in. And we saw with with Labour and the same with the Tories. They were just as useless. But not as ideological as Labour. But this sort of, we'll do a review and then we'll do this and then we'll water it down. We might bring in some legislation. He's literally like, and I know there are different powers that presidents have. I do get that, but we're going to do this. We're going to sack everybody who does this. This isn't going to happen.
Conviction.
In America right now, you can't even get back into the country under this executive order if you have a trans-identified passport. So if you are a man claiming you're a woman and your passport says you're a woman, that passport is no longer valid to get back in the country. You have to get a new passport.
When you talk about conviction as well, just, there were certain parts of the speech, the Mars things, but for me, what Julia said is spot on. I sat there and I thought, if a politician in this country, like Thatcher, like Blair at the beginning, stands up and says, right, that's my playbook, warts and all, I've been divorced twice, I've taken this when I was 18, whatever, come with me, there'll be highs, there'll be lows, I'll be honest, you can throw whatever you want at me, but that is my belief, and he did it.
I think we're crying out for it.
It's called optimism.
We're crying out for
contrast a lot of that stuff that Trump said, it's not going to be as easy as he's making out. But
that's not the point, though, is it?
Boy, oh boy, did he set the scene. Sheer, pure optimism. Come with me, America will be great again. Contrast that with these dreary little socialist killjoys running this country who got into power and immediately started talking Britain down.
And two-factor authentication.
They're running it. You know what?
For buying something like
£20 billion financial
They're
hole.
literally fiddling while Rome burns.
I got accused of that in a maths lesson when I was 14. Kyle, stop fiddling.
But Trump is doing the big picture stuff. And again, you can talk about growth like Rachel Reeves and Keir Starmer do. But at the end of the day, if you haven't got cheap energy, if you haven't, you can't, you fund everything, you're not going to have it.
Let's not forget as well that this Labour government has done quite a lot. I mean, they have come in and done things, but they haven't done the things that anybody expected them to do.
They screwed the pensioners.
And they've done everything which is now unpopular. And also, isn't it great to see somebody proud of their country?
Yes,
which Donald Trump is.
Right.
There is nobody in our cabinet who ever utters a word about Britain and how great Britain is. And
if you're going to sell something, though, you talk about its virtues, you build it up, you make people, as you said, feel optimistic about it. I sat there and I thought, the messages I had, Jez, I wish I could go and live in America. I felt like I wanted Donald Trump.
I think also one of the crucial things is saying what you're going to do and then doing it and getting it done on day one. Now, when we had Keir Starmer, they basically we're just not going to mention very much at all. And then they did a whole load of stuff where we were going, where the hell did that come from? You didn't mention that and made up this £22 billion black hole. And I think that's really crucial.
Yeah. Just added to it.
I mean, the jealousy among millions of British people, including, I think, all of us, it was palpable. I mean, you could feel it. People are going, why can't we have a Donald Trump?
I've never had that much.
I mean, not only is he going to change America, he's already changing the world. We are the last country to climb aboard
and I thought
the right-leaning bus.
Just because it was the part that I brought, I thought also, when I watched him, and I'm sure there will be moments when but I thought it was calm and assured, and it was like he'd gone back to Washington 8 years down the line, and he sort of knew the pettiness.
I know how this works.
I knew where to walk. I felt like he felt also, he was in control.
And I also
not
think
just
I also think that the contrast between him and Biden was also kind of accentuated how good he was, because Biden's been so useless, particularly for the last 2 years.
He pardoned his whole family.
Yeah, he pardoned his whole family. Do you know when he did it, though? He actually did it during Trump's speech. So he was that close to the line. He didn't want to have it in any way questioned. He was actually having the order to pardon all of his family, 5 members of his family, while Trump was speaking.
Biden crime cartel.
Biden's issued thousands of pardons compared to Trump.
1,800 or something.
Yeah,
right?
but Trump's first term, it was in the low hundreds. As for most of them, I don't think any of these people.
It's a very weird system.
Pardons.
They shouldn't
I
have
think they
it.
need to stop politicising and threatening criminal actions against past presidents, and that's all gone the way. But I do just think there were just certain things that just made you feel, you see, the can-do feeling, but also just a sort of, we are going to get this done. This is what we said we're going to do. And this is the key thing in what's going on in I think, Western democracy otherwise, particularly in Europe, particularly here, which is that they say one thing, like the Tories are going to deal with immigration, or we're going to deal with this or that, and we're going to tackle woke, and then they do the exact opposite. They abjectly fail, and they wonder why people don't trust them in a disillusion.
I feel like when I finished watching it that we're 4 years behind. We're now going to have Biden
has the inauguration
for 4
finished?
years.
Because it felt like it went on for 4 months.
But I don't think that the Republicans will be out of power for 12, 16 years. And I think we're going to have 4 years of hell with these socialists.
Do you know what it felt like? You know what it felt like as he was making, when he made the rally speech, then his inauguration speech. It was like kind of, right, from now on there's going to be 2 genders. None of this net zero crap.
Drill, baby,
law
drill.
and order, drill, baby, drill. It felt like emperor's new clothes. Yeah. All the public, for years, we've been going, why are these politicians imposing their virtue-signalling wokery on us? We don't want this. We want cheap energy. We're confused when you tell us there are 107 genders. We think there are 2.
We know there are 2.
So we've just been waiting.
Spoken of you, Julia.
We've been waiting for somebody to just tell us the truth.
I think we're all agreeing. Now, I wonder whether we'll agree. You've also brought Trump, but a different angle.
Well, yeah, this is to do with Ed Miliband. Ed Miliband and his American partner in crime, his spiritual fellow over there in the States, Al Gore. They have both announced in the wake of Trump's arrival that the net zero project is unstoppable. Unstoppable.
Except he's already stopped it.
Trump has already stopped it. Now, I'm going to give you some figures, right? So this is investment into renewables and fossil fuels. In 2021, global investment into renewables was $460 billion. Wow. Last year, it was $761 billion. Quite impressive. Fossil fuels. In 2021, it was $983 billion. Last year, $1.16 trillion. So there is far more investment going into fossil fuels, especially by countries that are supposed to be woke now, Brazil and Canada. They're churning out the oil and the coal. America, it's under Biden, its production of oil and gas went up.
They talked a good game on it, but they've just quietly...
So renewables, so the green revolution, the net zero is not unstoppable. In fact, it's not doing very well.
What will basically stop net zero is, as you just mentioned there, facts. I mean, we've still got these policies in this country. Now, the Tories had a load of mad policies. I entirely blame them for this. From Theresa May in the dying days of her administration.
And Boris Johnson, what a nightmare he was.
Down the line,
a plague on all of their houses. But nevertheless, you know, they watered a bit down. Oh, we're not going to have that EV mandate in 2030. It's going to be 2035, and then there's Labour have sort of backtracked a bit on the gas boiler ban and all of these things. Everyone's backtracking a little bit, and even the target for 100% renewable electricity by 2030 is now 95%. By the way, just as unachievable as 100%. And again, in the last week, the wind hasn't been blowing, the sun hasn't been shining. I mean, underlying sort of couple of percent of our electricity, let alone our entire energy needs, has been produced by renewables. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen this year. It's not going to happen next year. It's not going to happen in 2030. And by the way, it's not going to happen in 2050.
But here's
the
crazy Ed, right? So why is Britain doing this? There's no point.
Good question.
We produce less than 1% of carbon emissions. Nothing we do will change the ecology of the planet whatsoever. But Ed says it's very important we do this because we show the way. We become a world leader. We persuade other big nations to do that. Well, how did that work out with Donald Trump then, Ed?
Yeah.
How's that worked out with America? The biggest industrial nation in the world just said to Ed Miliband and his cronies, you can stick net zero where the sun don't shine. So his
That's
entire
quite funny, and the wind don't blow.
But also, but bear in mind
where the solar panels don't shine.
Exactly. All blown. That's the amazing thing, is that we've got a government that's totally and utterly obsessed with the EU, desperately wants to get back in. You know, they're in cahoots with Ed Davey. You know, they all tried to overturn the Brexit referendum result, and they're desperately trying to get, with the customs union, no one will notice, and then we'll get back in. But they want to tie us to a European Union, which is absolutely in economic basket case. Germany is the powerhouse economy. Germany's been in recession for basically 3 years. It's only going downhill because their energy is they've got no energy basically. They're basically having to import loads, and their manufacturing is all disappearing. So got a government that wants to tie us to this mad idea, and the other countries attached to it, while the rest of the world, Asia and America, are going, wee-hee!
We've got to get... listen, the show's almost over. We've got to get through this next 4 years, because I think we all agree on everything.
It's going to be so grim.
It is going to be grim, but maybe at the end of these 4 years, this sort of government will never get in again. I'm afraid. Oh, God, last word to you,
I was just going to say, did you notice in his press conference yesterday how many times Donald Trump attacked the EU? It was constant. So his relationship with EU fanatic Peter Mandelson, our new ambassador in Washington, is going to be interesting to the point of non-existence.
But just to finish about him again, because all he's doing when he talks about a golden age is building up his country, bigging up his country, and saying, I'm going to make as much money for my country and make it as possible. I'm going to say that's all from Clash the Titans tonight. We're all off on the first plane to America. A big thank you to Julia Hartley-Brewer, Mike Graham and Kev O'Sullivan. Remember, it says you can catch more from us on Talk all week. He's on breakfast, mid-mornings, at drive time in the evenings, smart speaker, radio, online. I've no idea. And you can subscribe to Talk on YouTube, whether you want to or not. Thanks for watching. Ta-ra.